Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for the movie Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves that I watched through MGM movie channel thing on demand. But overall, I actually really enjoyed this movie. My biggest kind of complaints would be that it's pretty much billed as this kind of heist kind of caper one, but it doesn't really focus on the heist that much. Mainly all the kind of weird stuff that kind of goes on around it to kind of get to that point before everything kind of escalates towards the end. However, I really liked how they utilized the world of Dungeons and Dragons and how they utilized the characters to have a pretty entertaining story that just used Dungeons and Dragons very well. Like, you could tell that the people that made this had a love for Dungeons and Dragons, and it pretty much comes across as like a Dungeons and Dragons campaign that just kind of goes how it usually goes, because sometimes you got your basic concept going on, but then the party goes and shit ensues and you kind of get there at the end, but you've gone in such a way that Dungeon Master, the party, everybody's like, didn't expect it to kind of go that crazy. Now, it doesn't go completely into left field here, but they do go to different kind of spots. Then just kind of be like, yeah, we kind of have to deal with this kind of issue first. So we start off and we see that this prisoner is being transferred to this icy kind of prison, and pretty much gets in there, and we get introduced to two of our main characters, Edgin and Holga. And Holga is eating her potato, and the one dude's like, oh yeah, baby, I could pretty much keep you warm and shit. And Edgin's like, don't fucking do that. She likes her potatoes. Don't mess with her potatoes. As she then pretty much destroys his legs and beats his ass out. And Edgin's like, yeah, all right, let's do this thing. And they pretty much get in front of pretty much a pardon board, and it's utilized to pretty much get the backstory of the characters, which I think is a pretty kind of effective and funny kind of way of doing it, because they've got someone on the council, the Absolution Council, that they're kind of waiting for, Jonathan, and you're like, alright, let's see what kind of goes on. And then Edgin is pretty much the bard of the group, and Chris Pine does a great job as that. And Michelle Rodriguez does a great job as Holga, the barbarian of the group. Everyone works within their archetypes, and you get the flavor of the archetype, but also the flavor of the character. That's a hard thing to accomplish, because sometimes you just be like, oh, here's your stereotypical barbarian, here's your stereotypical bard, sorcerer, druid, paladin, red wizard, all this kind of shit. But you actually get a nice sense of the characters here. At least I did. If you don't, I get that. But we see him pretty much then giving his backstory that he was a harper, and they're pretty much like similar to kind of like a paladin order, going around helping people, not getting anything in return. And we see that he had his wife, he had his daughter, but he then ran afoul of some red wizard, and his wife was killed with a red wizard's blade. And there was no kind of saving her from that. And we get actually towards the end that this is his kind of expedited version, and that there's actually a little bit more to it as well. He then turns to a life of crime to pretty much pay for his daughter and everything, and then hooks up with Holga, Simon, this dude Forge, and they're running all these things, these cons, and then they try and like steal stuff from this Harper Keep. However, it goes bad. It was pretty much done by the Sophina chick that was like, yeah, I kind of want this stuff. And of course, there's a tablet of reawakening there, which you can use to bring back someone from the dead. That, of course, is very important to Edgin. And his daughter is grown up at this point, pretty much teenage age. And he's been in this prison for pretty much 2 years because of this botch job. And he didn't want to tell her what he was kind of going after, in case it wasn't there, or he wasn't able to get it, because he didn't want her mother to pretty much die on her twice. Now, granted, she was a baby, so she really doesn't remember her mother, and that factors in later on for everything that kind of goes on with her relationship with other people as well. So, the thing is, there was this time kind of stopping thing that kind of stopped Edgin and Holga. They got captured, and we see that he's kind of finishing it up. And then Jonathan pops in, and he's like, come on, Holga! And there's this bird dude, and they essentially crack him out of a window and fly him out, and then they kind of like run. However, the board is like, we granted you your pardon! And it's like, ah, shit, man. Like, you're the bard. You should at least try and get some kind of feedback, because it could have pardoned you both, and you could have saved the trouble of this and being fugitives of what's kind of going on. So, he then tries to kind of figure out what's kind of going on. They don't know what their next move is before they see that Forge, for some reason, is now the Lord of Neverwinter. And I kind of love that they do nice kind of name drops. And it's nice fan servicey stuff that's not like overdone. You get Baldur's Gate and Neverwinter here and everything. I'm like, ooh, ooh, ooh. I love that kind of stuff. And so they decide to go there and try and figure out what's going on with Forge, because they're like, how the fuck did he become the Lord of Neverwinter? And that he's doing all this kind of shady shit. Because they go in there and we see that Kira, Edgin's daughter, is not pleased with him, that pretty much Forge has been lying to her for 2 years and poisoning her against him, saying that he was pretty much going for riches and everything like that, before she kind of storms out, and then Forge pretty much orders Sofina to have them killed. So they then go out and pretty much are taken to be killed, but Holga is able to beat the shit out of everybody and get a new battle axe in the process, which is really kind of cool. And really awesome, because the action scenes in this movie are very well done and showcase characters as well. Holga is a down and dirty kind of barbarian beating wholesale ass. As we get later on, we see how sorcerers, druids, paladins fight as well, and you get the understanding of the character through the action, and there's minimal jump cut edits. Like, you get a nice flow for the action going through, and you get to see the characters doing the action scenes. That's a big thing for me. I like character and story, but I also think that action scenes are important too. You don't half-ass that shit and just jump everywhere and try and do the complete coolest thing possible. You use it to tell the story and characters as well. And I believe that they did a good job with that here, because you also see Edgin utilizing his loot when he kind of needs to, and utilizing his brains for what happens as well. So they're able to get out of there. They're trying to figure out what else they kind of need to do. So they decide to go hook up with Simon and try and figure out what's going on. He is not a really good sorcerer, and I love who they kind of got to play him, because Justice just does a really good job of being like, I'm kind of doing this stuff, as he's pretty much trying to pull a con, and he's then in a kind of life or death scenario, because everybody, because Edgin and Holga pop up and kind of break his concentration. Everything kind of scatters, and he's like, yeah, he's stealing our valuables, and then he accidentally is able to kind of flip the gravity into place, because they're trying to go and fucking kill his ass. But they get out and he's like, I suck, man, but sure, well, try and figure out something. Let me try and introduce you to this druid, because they're trying to get like a shape changer to figure out the vault and figure out what Forge has, and if he's got the Tablet of Reawakening, because Edgin did toss it to him. So it's like, what the fuck? Let's kind of get this shit and pretty much take all this shit. So we then get introduced to Doric, who is a tiefling and can shape change as well. And she just like helps out these elves, because Forge has pretty much been utilizing his position as Lord of Neverwinter to wage a campaign on them, and is destroying the forest and everything. And we see her transform into an owlbear, which is fucking awesome. Granted, I understand that they did that in the trailers, but actually seeing like an owlbear doing weird shit, like fusing an owl and a bear, it's like, okay. And there's a really kind of cool thing that they utilize the owlbear for towards the end that just screams of, okay, they rolled a nat 20, let them go at it. While this is going on, we also see that Sofina is actually a red wizard. And we get more kind of backstory of that when we get introduced to the paladin Zenk. Is it Zenk? Zenk Yendar, yes. But she's helping them out, because we then get a little bit of her backstory, which is pretty much the extent that it kind of goes, that she was born to human parents. She hates humans because they kind of tossed her out. She got a home pretty much here, and she wants to protect the place as much as possible. And scene, I'm like, I don't trust you guys. What are you trying to do? I'm the dude that makes plans, and if they fail, I make other plans. It's like, so you make plans that fail? And she's like, all right, fine, we'll go up. I'll help you guys forge. She could shape change into a position to figure out what's kind of going on, and she's able to get in, see the whole kind of bit, and that the, let's see here. That the vault is defended by a spell kind of thing of Mordekainen. And her escape attempt as she's shifting through various different things. Holga suggested that she turn into a deer to infiltrate the palace, and she eventually escapes as a deer, which is kind of funny. But that's an enchantment that Simon cannot break through, and instead they're going to have to need like this Helm of Disjoinment. Yeah, not joinment, I'm sorry. Helm of Disjunction, which could disable him. And the thing is, it would also be really full of riches because Forge is bringing back these gladiatorial games. Almost kind of Oceans-like. The thing is, the helm hasn't been seen in like hundreds of years. So they actually have to go to this battlefield of that's kind of associated with Holga's clan. However, she was kicked out because she married someone that was an outsider. She then like goes and pretty much gets some closure with her former husband, who was played by Bradley Cooper, and gives her like this walking stick, which becomes important later on because of like its use and abilities. It's just funny. It's completely great because it's like D&D. You get something and then you're able to utilize it later on. So they then go and they're essentially going through this graveyard. You have this thing, you can ask this corpse 5 questions, and they're like going through and all this. But the thing is, they get towards the last dude, and they forget to ask him the other questions to go to sleep. So he's got 1 question left, and he's just sitting there, oh, fuck. But this, of course, links us to the Paladin. Everybody knows this dude. He's like, yeah. And he, like, helps. We get him introduced to him. He's this really cool Paladin dude. He pulls a baby cat creature, cat person out of a fish. And he's just like, yep. And we get introduced to his backstory in that he is from Thay. And that was taken over by this lich dude. Let's see. Zazaz Tame. And that he utilized this kind of horn thing to turn pretty much the people into an undead army for him. And Sophina is one of those, and she's attempting to pretty much spread the influence. And Zeng pretty much decided to take the helm and hide it in the Underdark, and our group must now continue on to get it. We get there, we get its introduction to this like gnomish kind of trap that is like overly complicated, and Simon accidentally breaks it. But then later, we look at the little walking staff, and it's a hither-thither staff, which is essentially a portal gun that he's able to like boop boop. He's like, yeah, we got this shit, and they get there, they get the helm. However, they then are set upon by Zaz Tame's other undead warriors. And we get a really other cool fight scene with him as the Paladin, just like going through and just having really cool kind of different Paladin kind of style to Holga's. Now, he doesn't really utilize any kind of magic or whatnot, but he utilizes some pretty cool fighting moves and different kind of weapon armaments as he's going around. And he's able to defeat him, and he's like, yeah, they're undead, like, we better get out of here. And then they get set upon by a really fat dragon. Like, this dragon is able to find a really good spot, and it's crazy because he can barely fly, and he pretty much eats all the undead people. But they're able to kind of escape, but they get put into this kind of position where they're stuck in this cave, and Edgin's able to get them. He comes up with a plan that the dragon utilizes. He's able to utilize the dragon's breath and Simon's flame to blast a hole and get them to swim out into the ocean, and then they're out there. So it's like, all right, peace. He also had extracted an oath from Edgin that he would promise to give all of the riches that he gets from the vault back to the people of Neverwinter. And he's like, all right, yeah. And he has faith that he would be able to do that, and that he would be a harper again to do this to help the people. And we see that Simon attempts to attune with the helm, and it's not working at all. And he's like, I told you I couldn't do it. And he's like, it's all right, it's fine. And a really big thing is that of failure because Edgin's like, I failed. I took Red Wizard treasure because I couldn't take having nothing from the Harpers, and that he wasn't content. He wanted to provide more, it seemed like, and that led them to track back to his wife Zia, and that's why she was killed. He's like, I failed. And seeing him kind of go through and acknowledge that, and he's like, I got to save my daughter. I got to get her back, and I got to get my wife back. And he's like, it's fine, we'll figure out another kind of way. And they attempt to start doing these other kind of ways to get in there, trying to do the hither thither staff to pretty much create a portal into the vault. However, we get to it's not exactly working out well because it's not in the vault. Simon is able to then utilize it because the portal is lying face down onto the ground. They can't get in. So we get Dork pretty much trying to get into a position where she can, like, transform into a worm and slither in and get that way, but then Simon tries to utilize the helm and tells it to fuck off and to let him do it, and he was essentially fighting himself because he had to put himself in a position where he had death on the line, failure on the line, and Edgin knew that and was like, listen, you are a great sorcerer when you need to be. Other than that, that's when you get nutty because of your self-esteem, because we had also learned that he had attempted to court Dork, but his low self-esteem was a big barrier to that. But he's able to use the helm. He gets in there with Holga after Holga had her nice kind of fight scene that kind of transformed her battle axe into a cool thing as well. And there's nothing in there, and they of course get trapped. Edgin gets trapped. Dork gets trapped as well, and we learn that Sofina is attempting to, of course, utilize her Red Wizard powers to create a new foothold in Neverwinter and create new armies. Well, we see that our people are then put into the gladiatorial arena, and they have to... It's funny to see different, like their party and other kind of parties dealing with all the different kind of stuff, and it's cool to see them figure out their ways to get out. Dork pretty much leading the charge, finding this kind of goopy... kind of block thing that they kind of hide in to get into the underbelly and kind of get out that way. And it's really kind of awesome. It's like, oh god, get them out before they pretty much get digested. And they get to Forge's barge. They get the Tablet of Reawakening. They're able to showcase who Forge really is to Kira as he attempts to hold her hostage. And they're able to, like, crack his ass out. And they're trying to escape, but they see everything going down with Sofina as people are getting transformed. So they utilize the hither thither staff to then take all of the treasure from the boat and get it to distract all the people and to get them out, because Forge promised a surprise. He was pretty much working with Sofina, which doesn't really make much sense, pretty much to steal everything from Neverwinter and then fuck off, like the con man that he is. But we see everybody leaving. Sofina is pissed off, and then we get them pretty much fighting her, which is really kind of cool because each of them have their kind of own hero moment, and we get a nice kind of callback to the Avengers because the owlbear pretty much beats the ever-loving fucking shit out of Sofina, where the natural 20 would have pretty much come into effect. But we see that Simon's able to, like, work through her time gap. Time stop kind of thing. Kira actually helps him out with her pendant that we'd seen earlier before that grants her invisibility to protect her. Nice kind of way to do that, because we had also seen that Simon and Dork had been utilized with, like, magic suppression kind of wrist gauntlets, and they utilized that on Sofina and pretty much stop her ass. But, however, Holga gets mortally wounded by a red wizard blade, and we see that Edgin's going through his mind, and he decides to use the Tablet of Reawakening on Holga because she's more of a mother to Kira than Zia is. Not Zia, Zia was, because she didn't have enough time. And it's important because it's executed very well. It doesn't seem melodramatic or stupid. It's handled with the weight because Edgin is giving up seeing his wife again and having her back. Holga was actually at peace at this, like, this is a hero's death. But, and then she wakes up and she's like, why the hell did you use it on me? Because he did it for his daughter. And that's an important decision to make and a distinction to make. He gave up seeing his wife again and instead decided to bring back the mother, pretty much, that his daughter has grown up with. And you see him weighing that heavily as he makes his decision. And we got the group together. We see that they're pardoned and everything. We see Forge is pretty much arrested in the same kind of prison, attempts the same kind of escape style, but they blocked out the window this time. It's like, ah, shit. But we see that Dork goes and decides to court again with Simon, and it's a really kind of cool ending. Let's see here. And the old Lord of Neverwinter's brought back. He fixes everything that the Forge dude did, and we also see that the corpse is still in the graveyard being like, anybody want to ask me a question? So, it's a nice movie. It's definitely one of those where it's like, I'm happy I saw it. Like, there's those kind of movies that you're like, alright, I could be with it. This might not be my favorite movie, but I would definitely watch it again. I would recommend people to watch it. It's a really good time. I didn't feel like my time was wasted at all, and it was enjoyable. Now, I can get that other people can disagree with me on that. That's completely fine. And I could see where you'd be like, this kind of drags or whatnot, or you kind of wanted the heist, and I kind of wanted the heist as well. I love kind of Ocean's movies where you're going for heists and everything, but I just love the world, what they were able to do with the lore of D&D and craft it in their own way. That's an important bit. Taking something and executing it in your own kind of way, and I think this movie succeeds in that matter, and really gave me a good story to latch onto, good characters to drive the plot and everything going on, because I didn't feel that we had a lot of the plot demands going on. Mainly it's like, okay, this is our objective, how are we going to achieve that? Going along our different lines is like, ah shit, we kind of have to go over here, do this, do that, and do that, because it felt like character choices and consequences that they'd have to do to kind of get through and reach their objectives, which I always like. And then add into the fact that they treated the action well enough and actually did a good job with all the different kind of characters to showcase abilities and how they fight and magic as well. I'm like, yeah, this is good. I'm happy I saw it. I think it sucks that looking into it, they're like, oh yeah, this movie didn't do that well. It's like, oh, I understand the economics of what's kind of going on with theaters and everything, but I would definitely recommend this to pretty much anybody, especially those into D&D and fantasy and everything, but even people that aren't. It's just an enjoyable movie that the actors are having fun, and you can tell that they're having fun. They just do what they do, and that's always a great thing to have in a movie. And it's actually on sale right now, at least Best Buy for Black Friday, in 4K for like $9.99. So if you want some physical media to watch it, cool, go for it. I think it's probably also on Paramount Plus potentially. I don't know how long that would last. If you've got certain kind of movie channels through cable, MGM, granted I've got Comcast, Xfinity, I don't know any kind of other ones, but I would definitely recommend it, especially if it just pops up on TV at some point, or you decide you want to look into it. It was enjoyable. Like, it's almost like the exact opposite of what happened to me with Meg 2: The Trench. Like, complete inverse, where I'm like, I didn't expect this to be bad, but I was like, I didn't know what to expect. I'm like, alright, let's kind of see what goes on. I'm like, oh, this is a fun little thing. I love it. It's great. Will it be something that I'm like going through later on? But if I ever, probably not. I won't just be like, boom, I really got an itch to see that. But if I ever be like, you know what? Let's just watch this kind of crazy ass movie. This would be one that would be like, yeah, this will work. So those are my opinions on the movie. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.